Good morning. Logan coming to you again this morning. I hope you're having a great day, and I hope you have a great Lord's Day, and I hope you're staying safe and everyone's healthy. And we hope that the study that you have this morning with me is I hope that that's going to be an encouragement to you. Um, I hope all of these studies that we've been having are encouraging to you uh, through the weeks and the podcasts and all of the things that we've been putting out. I hope and pray that those have been encouraging you during this strange time. We live in a world where people want to find purpose and meaning and value. It's a terrifying idea, this terrifying thought that your life doesn't matter, or that you don't matter. That's terrifying. That's scary. That's the stuff of nightmares. We don't want to be people that aren't valued, appreciated, and we don't want to be a people where things are pointless. Life is pointless. Our life has no meaning and no purpose. Um, and and so what I want to talk about today is just that. That's such an important aspect of life, is finding meaning, finding purpose. And so many different people look in so many different places, and they listen to so many different voices. There's so many proposed solutions coming from all angles. But where does value, where does meaning, where does purpose really come from? Um, Solomon did this. He studied this really experientially. He studied this. He wanted to get to the bottom of what it meant to be human, what it meant to live a life as a human, and to find enjoyment, to find purpose, to find meaning. What are the things in your life that you look at and that you can point to, and you can say, that gives me purpose, that gives me meaning? Is it work? Do you have a job, and in that job you say, I have purpose, I have meaning. If I didn't have this job, my life would be pointless. Would that be it? Would it be your house? Would it be, or any other degree of possessions? Is there a habit or a hobby that you have, that you do, that you said, if I just didn't have that, my life would have no meaning? I think one of the ways to kind of test this is, what if you didn't have it anymore? What if you didn't have that job anymore? If you didn't have uh, those hobbies anymore, or you didn't have, maybe it's an accomplishment. Maybe you can look at something in your past and you say, I did this, I accomplished this, and if I hadn't accomplished this, I wouldn't have no value right now, today. There's so many people that believe this. They really do. They believe this idea that if they don't accomplish something, then their life has no meaning. And it's where they get their motivation, their ambition. It's where they get their drive. Now, I have nothing against the motivation and the drive and the meaning. What we're questioning this morning is where your value, where your purpose, where your meaning truly come from. So what else could you get it from? Do you get it from food? Some people get it from food. They eat, and when they eat, uh, they they feel like this is their purpose. This is their calling. This is what gives them meaning in life. Um, when you get on your deathbed and you think about all of the things that you have or have accomplished in life, which one of those can you point to? And maybe you've got a child there, or maybe you've got someone there that you can, or maybe you write it down and you say, I'm going to write down the very things that happened in my life, that I had in my life, that all of the following generations of people, they can do, and they can have the same purpose and meaning and fulfillment as I had. What would you write? What would you write down? Pretend you're on your deathbed, someone's standing with you, and you say, you do this, and you'll have purpose in your life. You have this, and you'll find meaning. What would you tell them? It's an interesting exercise, because We don't think about. I mean, I don't. I try not to think about that. We don't think about that very much. Um, you know, that exercise though is the exact same exercise that Solomon did in the Old Testament. It is. He did the exact same exercise. What he did was he looked at all of the things that he had. He looked at all of the things that he accomplished. He looked at all the things that were, and he tried to evaluate in order to provide for following generations what they could do in order to have true purpose, meaning, and value in their life. You could say happiness, satisfaction, fulfillment. And you know what he found? Nothing. He found nothing. That's one of the reasons why people look at the book of Ecclesiastes and say, well, so it's so depressing. It's really not. There's more to the story. But if you look at all of the things in life, he uses this phrase, under the sun, in other words, everything, and to point at something and say, that's going to make you happy. That's going to fulfill you. That's going to satisfy you. The conclusion that he drew was nothing. And don't think he didn't do his research and that he didn't actually try. He really did try. He worked at it. He even did some things that you and I probably shouldn't do because it's not Christian. It's not a good idea. For example, he looked at all the things that he had accomplished. He looked at the things that other people had accomplished. He looked at the pleasure that he could get in life. Whatever his eyes saw, he wanted to get it. He looked at life itself. He looked at death. And just looking at it like that, it's just there's no point, because in death you lose everything that you did. You lose everything that you had. You lose everything that you've worked for. And then what happens to those things that you had and those things that you worked for? Where do they go? Well, sure enough, they go to somebody else. and who knows what they're going to do with it. And not only that, but no one's going to remember you for those things that you did and those works and those accomplishments and those possessions. Or maybe those ideas that you had. Now you could like write them in a book, but so they'll have some of those ideas, but they're not going to know you, and they're not going to really appreciate even if you word it perfectly well. They still may not be able to grasp exactly what you're trying to get at. See, they take what you have and they make it their own, and it's not yours anymore. And as a matter of fact, they don't even give you credit for the origination of it. And if you look at life just from a humanistic perspective, what difference are we really from animals? And I think this is where a lot of the philosophies really are derived. I mean, think about it. Is this not where people come to the conclusion that all of the similarities between us and animals, it's like, well, okay, we're just like animals. We are animals, if you think of it from that perspective. The similarities between us and apes, for example, I mean, what's the difference? We've got breath, we've got brains, we've got lungs, we've got hearts, we've got stomachs, I mean, all of the animals have these things. And so this Darwinian idea that we all came from the same place, well, that makes a lot of sense, because we're all the same. And then when you follow that track, okay, well, if they're valueless, then I'm valueless. Where's my value if I'm the same as them? And so he looked at that. There's really not a lot of difference. And when an animal dies, it goes to the dust, and when a human dies, they go to the dust. Well, what's the difference? What's the difference between those two? Well, there's no difference. So where's the value and where's the purpose? Well, there really isn't any. And so words. Well, okay, so what if you could talk, and by your speech you could actually become a valuable person? Well, it just doesn't work that way. That coming from one of the wisest men of all history, he is concluding that even wisdom itself is not going to give you value. Knowledge itself and understanding itself is not really going to give you purpose and meaning and value and satisfaction and happiness in your life. Well, what about just wealth itself, just having a lot of money? As a matter of fact, not only does that not give you meaning, purpose, and value, but it actually makes you miserable. And he talks about that as well. It's fascinating as we go down the list. And one thing that he also mentions is the fact that there are people in the world that are just absolutely evil. And it's like good things happen to them. What is with that? There are people today that use that as an argument for the fact that God does not exist. But Solomon is, as a matter of fact, doing the opposite. What he's trying to show is that humanism is a failure. Elevating the human in this godless worldview, it leads you to absolute pointlessness. And it leads you to a point where things just don't make sense at all. Because the world doesn't take care of the wicked. The world doesn't bless the good. And as a matter of fact, what you're left with is just pointlessness, whether you're young or whether you're old. And if that was it, that just being a human is pointless, then where is meaning? Where's value? What can you point to, really, that says this is going to make you happy? And Solomon said none of that did. But there is something that will. It's someone, God. God gives us value. He gives us purpose. And as a matter of fact, you could go down the list of all the things you have, all the things that you've accomplished, all the things that you've enjoyed in your life. And all of a sudden you can now, with God in your life, look at those things completely, entirely different than you ever had. For example, everything now becomes a gift. Your accomplishments was an opportunity. Where'd you get that opportunity? God gave that opportunity to you. The food that you eat. For those people that find value in eating, well, what's the point? What's the point of that? Well, the point in food is that God gave it to you. Now it has a source, origin, and it's from God. And now all of a sudden when you eat, you're not just like, okay, I'm doing this because I have to do this. That's why animals eat. There's no point to their eating except for the fact that they need to feed their body so that they can live another day, which is just this cycle that he talks about at the beginning of the book of Ecclesiastes. And if your life is just a meaningless cycle, and I hope this is starting to really click with you, that everything that you have now doesn't function to get you to the next day. It functions to make you satisfied. It functions as a gift. It functions as God saying, here, take this. I want you to have it. I want you to enjoy it. And you can look at everything, whether it's work, enjoy work. Food, enjoy your food. Water, enjoy water. Your wife, enjoy your wife. Enjoy everything that you have. Life now all of a sudden has purpose because life is now a gift. And Solomon is suggesting that life is worth living when God's in your life because God gave you your life. And if that wasn't the case, it'd be better not to be born. And that's exactly what he says. But with God in our lives, life is now worth living. That's not really what I wanted to talk about this morning. What I wanted to talk about was 1 Corinthians chapter 15. And here's why. And I hope you understand where I'm going with this. Jesus lived. He died. He was buried. And then he was raised again, the text indicates. And that's the definition of what the gospel is. It's the good news. If all those things weren't true, then life would be without purpose, without meaning. But there were people in the first century that were trying to suggest that there wasn't a resurrection and that the resurrection isn't even a possibility. If resurrection from death is not a possibility, then Jesus was not resurrected. And if Jesus was not resurrected, then the case that Paul makes in 1 Corinthians 15 is Christianity is pointless, faith is pointless, preaching is pointless, life is pointless. The meaning, the purpose, the value has now been stripped away from your life and mine if Jesus Christ was not raised from the dead. It's the same idea I think that Solomon was making. Where is your purpose? Where is your value? Where with God in your life, life is worth living. But Paul takes that one step further and says that if Christ was not raised from the dead, the same conclusion is true. You could really say that, and we've talked about this in past, but if Christ didn't do the plan of God, all of existence is in vain. Because we've made the case that he's the reason why life came into existence to begin with, why mankind came into existence to begin with. He's the reason. He's the reason as you trace the lineage from Adam and Eve until himself. I mean, he is the reason. He is the purpose in order to get mankind back to God. And now if he had not performed that particular function, then mankind would not be able to be with God. And your and my life would be absolutely pointless. We'd be without God. And life would be completely in vain. And everything that you did, waking up in the morning, eating your food, drinking your drink, going to work, whatever you do in life, your accomplishments, every bit of it, just gets you to the next day, just so that you can be buried in a grave, just so you can rot and decay, and pass on things that no one will ever appreciate, no one will ever remember. Absolute pointlessness. Except value comes in the simple fact that Jesus Christ was raised from the dead. And now, through him, God can be in your life. And that changes everything. Maybe you need a prayer. Maybe you need someone to talk to. Why don't you get in touch with us? We want to help you. If you feel like you're living a life that has no meaning, has no purpose, we want to help you. The more of God we can get in our life, the more blessed we are, the more thankful we are, and the more meaning we will experience, the more purpose we experience in our life. And the more that we look forward to eternal life with God forever. Whatever you need, let us know. And be safe. We encourage you to mail in your contribution checks and continue to have a safe and healthy week. All right. We'll see you later.